All right, here we are. We're ready to receive and we're ready to give. And I hope you're all ready to receive and ready to give as well. So welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and this is SkyWire, and we come to you each and every Thursday at 11 o'clock Eastern Time with an extraordinary, heart-filled film strip. Each and every week we come with people who just are committed to this subject of listening, because within everything that we do, there's listening. So when you see, you're listening inside what you're seeing. When you touch, you're listening inside of what you're touching. When you're smelling, you're listening inside of what you smell. When you taste, you're listening inside of the flavor. Keep that in mind. That's what listening is. So it's an awareness, it's an observation, it's the messages that we hear all around us. It is what makes sense of why we are here. And so today we're going to be talking about receiving and giving. And what does that mean? How do you listen to receive? How do you listen to give? How do you listen for the balance? Because when you don't listen for the balance, it turns into something else. So I want to welcome each and every one of our panelists and all of you out there today that are listening and watching. And if you happen to be watching us or listening to us on a replay, we're grateful that you're here. Please comment, ask us questions. That's what this is all about. It's a community. Hey, we're hanging out. So let me welcome Marguerite. Hello.
Hello, I'm here, and I am first receiving my coffee, and then I receive your smile, and I can hear them both.
Cool. Woo! I can feel it too. That's what the fun thing is about this stuff. When somebody feels it and receives it, when they do it with an open heart, it vibrates out. So, hi, Jamie. I'm Jeremy. Oops. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm doing well. I knew that mix-up would happen at some point. We might as well get it out of the way.
Might as well. And I have a daughter, Jamie, too, so it's like on my mind. So welcome. We're glad to have you back.
Thanks. Good to be here.
And Gail. Hey, Gail.
Hey, I have been receiving ever since I just came into the green room this morning. I'm just soaking it all in, and so happy to be here.
Yep, you can't soak it in if you're not soaking it out, right?
Right.
And Dave. Hey, Dave.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. What was that? How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's good to be here. Last minute, I managed to make it. So it's always good to hang out with some really positive people here and see what we come up with today. It should be awesome.
That's a really good point. Thank you. And the couple of the century, Mark and Heidi. How you doing? How you two doing?
It was sort of a cup of coffee that Margarita was showing. I would receive that, but it's the wrong time of day here for that.
Oh, well, it's the right time somewhere.
Somewhere.
So
we've been giving and receiving.
Yeah.
For quite some time now.
Good. And Heidi, how you doing?
And that's me, Heidi.
Good. And you are experiencing an internet issue, huh? You got a little internet issue going on?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Right. Sometimes it's breaking up.
Yeah.
But I do.
All right. Well, you're here, and we're glad you're here. So let's get on. So here we go. And welcome everybody that's out there. Please comment.
The words we don't add.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we're receiving you no matter what, your vibes. So I want to welcome everybody that's on the stream, in the comment stream. Please feel free to comment to us anytime. Any comments you have, we want to have them. So let's start off with this notion of receiving and giving. It's a big conversation. So let's start with Marguerite. How do you define the flow between what? I guess my first question is, what makes it right and what makes it okay?
The first thing I was thinking about is the cup. Because if we have a full cup, you can only receive from it to yourself. But if you're a cup like this, who is full, nothing else can come in. So it's like the biggest point here is to empty the cup so that you can actually hear and listen to take in what other people give you. Mm-hmm. This is my words.
That's exactly right. So where do you have to be in order to receive?
I have to be in a state of mind that is open. It's not only engaging the ears, it's like connecting with the awareness in the brain, in the heart, and actually open up the doors on all the chakras to actually see and hear and feel and sense and intuit on all levels. I mean, we talked about feeling. Gail said feeling, right? And and you know, then you have to have the feeling state open to actually be able to feel. You have to have your eyes open to be able to see it. Have to have any of the senses available. Otherwise, there is no point in communication because you can't take it in, or you take in very little.
Right. Right. And listening is the slit. Is the slit that lets you know where you are and where you're positioned, whether you're in your heart or whether you're in your ego, and where you are. Listening is a slit. So that was great. Thank you, Marguerite. Jeremy.
Well, I think you have to be a generous giver in order to be a good recipient. And I think a lot of times we get preoccupied with what's in it for me, or you know, there's some give and take in relationships. But I think if you are a generous giver and stay preoccupied with that, what you will receive will exceed your expectations.
Ah, that's a good point. Be a generous giver so you can be a generous receiver.
Right.
That's a good point. Very good point. Thanks for that.
Sure.
Gail? Well, two things I'd like to say. First, I want to comment on something that Marguerite said about that with the beautiful cup, that you have to be, Marguerite, I don't know if you said, you know, empty so you could allow, you know, enable yourself to receive. And I know exactly what you mean by that about the emptiness, but I think there's another way to say it, at least for me, and that is because I can be so full, you know, like my life is like so full and rich, but as long as you're open, then that cup becomes bottomless, you know. I mean, it's just like you can just keep receiving, you know. It's endless as long as you're open. So that's one thing I wanted to say. And the other thing I wanted to say is that for me, giving and receiving, they're the same thing. I mean, you can't really do one without the, you know, one doesn't happen without the other. It's like the minute you actually give, you are receiving. It can't be any other way. And I just, I think that's incredibly profound, just to even, just to dwell on that.
That's a really good point too. So it's great because when Dave opened up, he said, you know, what points are going to be made today? And you're making such great points. And when if you're listening, then the flow of giving and receiving is there. If you're not listening, there is no giving and receiving. So that's a really good point. Dave?
Hey, there we go. Yeah, I absolutely concur 100% with what Gail and Marguerite said, because I think there is a natural connection between giving and receiving. We cannot receive anything unless we are open. We can't receive something in our hand unless our hand is open. And so we have to be open to receive, but we also open our hand to give something to somebody. So the whole thing revolves around us being aware or being awake. I sign off a lot of the newsletters that we send out from the company with "Be epic, stay awake." And I had somebody ask me, "What do you mean stay awake?" I said, "Well, you have to be awake all the time." So many times we find people who are walking around on autopilot and are just going through the same motions all the time, and they drive to work and they can't remember how they got there because they've done that every single day, and they switch off. And it's very true when somebody said, if you told everybody in the world to say exactly what was on their mind right now, most people would be speechless, because we don't always have something in our mind. We're not concentrating, we're not aware, and we're not awake. And when we are aware of what's going on, and when we are in conversation with somebody and we're awake, this communication is two-way. And for both parties, it's like a crack in the wall through which you can see the world. Because this connection that you create with each other, if you're both open to anything that can happen and anything that the other person wants to give you or what you want to give them, that is true communication. It's giving and receiving. It's a two-way thing. Just like listening is an active rather than a passive sense. We actively listen because we are giving ourselves to that other person to say, "Tell me everything," and they give, so we receive, and we give ourselves to them and they receive our attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you can't give something you don't have. I mean, if you can't take love, I mean, you can't receive love if you can't give it. You can't give love if you haven't received it. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And the same thing with the communication. It's a really good point. I mean, you can't communicate if you're not listening. And it's not just communicating to a person. It's communicating to everything. You know, we have a relationship with everything. Whether we're talking to our food, we're talking to the space, we're talking to our music, we're talking to what we smell. We deny it, we take it in, and it's all done through listening. So
it's engagement.
It's everything. That's what this whole thing is about. So, Mark and Heidi, I know you're out there on the chat, on the stream, and I want to welcome everybody that's there. Robin, I see, Coach Seymour, I think Nicole is there, but you're here. So what do you got to say?
To add, we just had a session with Nicole, and she made the difference between taking and receiving. And I think this is a very, very important difference, because we are used to take, but not so much used to receive. And when I think about me in particular, but also about women's stories, we were used culturally to overgive. And we were not used to receive. And then when we got sort of grumpy because we overgive, we only went to take. And this doesn't work in some way, you know. So just this distinction is very, very important. We need to learn to receive as much as we need to learn to give. And sometimes what we think is giving is not really giving, but it's a giving for having, for a sort of manipulation to get it back, you know.
Right. That kind of giving is really taking.
Trying to.
Yeah, so the only way to really give is to be in a balance of giving. Balance for giving. Otherwise, it's not giving. I mean, people overgive is not is not giving. It's a head thing. It's just like compassion. If we have over compassion, it's not compassion. It's not for somebody else. It's for us. So it is not giving. So that's great. Nicole has wrote some really wonderful things too early on in the stream that I'd love to be able to pull up because she made perfect sense. So I'm going to try to look for it because it was a really good comment. Or Nicole, she's there. She could paraphrase it. But it was a really good comment. Mark, did you have something to add?
Well, of course. Yeah. I wanted to bring this giving and receiving right down to the physical, somatic level, because this is what I've been learning in my relationship with Heidi. We are so physical with one another, and there's great messages in this. I've discovered that if I'm really honest, I cannot give and receive at the same time. If I am touching her, I'm aware of giving. And if she touches me at the same time, I stop being aware of the giving and I receive.
I have to ask you a question.
Yes.
So when we talk about it on that level, that's a conscious, that's the human part that is aware of giving or aware of receiving. But what about your spiritual sense? Does it designate between the giving and receiving at that point, or is it one thing?
Oh, I know in an abstract kind of way that I cannot touch her without me being touched. It happens simultaneously. But it's just simply, I'm not going to go to the spiritual level because I cannot speak for certainty there. I can speak with certainty about the physical level. And there, if I can either touch or be touched. I cannot concentrate on both things at the same time. And it was kind of a real surprise to realize that. But if I just really turn my head off and am in the body completely, I'm aware of that. I don't know what the implications are on a spiritual level or even a psychological level, to tell the truth. But when I saw you had a kind of poster, an orange background poster this morning that said something about the ecstasy of receiving, the pleasure of giving, and I said, I know what I want to talk about immediately. Yeah.
So did that posting tip for you? Did it open up this part for you? Do you think? Was it a trigger?
It was a reminder. We have talked about this before, that we cannot do the giving and receiving simultaneously, that they're two separate activities that go on.
And going back to listening, I think it's really, you can or listen into what you get in your body, or you listen into your hand and then what you give in some way.
Yeah.
This both together is sort of a half and half. This is not the full listening.
I can experience from what you're saying. I can see both of those happening. I can see you giving consciously to someone, rubbing them, and but you're receiving the feeling of the joy of the experience of what you're giving to somebody.
Oh.
This is different.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, that's not on a physical level. That's different. Yeah.
Right. That's very interesting. Very interesting. And I want to also point out that, Mark, when you saw that post, that the impetus, the feeling that you got, or the reminder that you got, is what you listened to be able to bring it here. That's that deep sensitivity to listening that Mark displayed at that time. So that's really great. Thank you for bringing that up because it really makes me, it's another form of consciousness. So I
No,
want
no,
to show, yeah, go
no.
ahead.
Then
Go ahead.
I found Nicole's comment that she said earlier on.
Yeah, good.
And I can't call it up. I'm such a Luddite. I have to use 2 or 3 things to do one thing. I can't get to grips with that. She said, giving and receiving, 2 parts of a whole that are interdependent and create a movement towards integrity if all involved give and receive without being attached. They are not necessarily a reaction to the other. Which is a great comment, I think.
Yeah, it's a great comment. It's a really insightful comment for them to
That's the thing
be.
about Nicole, she makes great comments.
Yeah, that was a really great comment. That without attachments, and they're not attached. You can't have an attachment, and they're not attached. That's a kind of an interesting concept. That's really good. So, okay, who wants to speak next?
I do.
Yeah, go for it.
This is just, this conversation is blowing me away. I mean, this is so incredibly rich. Well, the first thing I want to say to Mark and Heidi, or Mark, is that I think what you were trying to express, because I know exactly what you mean, and I think perhaps, maybe it just comes down to being able to either give fully or receive fully in that moment. You know what I mean? If you're receiving and then you start giving, you can't receive fully. So it's just, there was that piece about just being, giving or receiving fully. The other thing I wanted to say is that comment that Nicole made, and I want to give a wonderful shout out to my dear friend Nicole and my new friend Coach C. Moore. So glad that you're here. And so Nicole, I never really made that distinction before in my mind, and believe me, I think about giving and receiving a lot. It's just my cup of tea. No pun intended about the cup. But anyway, I never really made that distinction about the difference between receiving and taking. It was like all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, that's interesting. And it seems to me that when you're, one of the differences between the two is that when you're taking, you're not open. You know what I mean? You're just like, it's just all about you. There isn't an openness there. It's just, you're closed. It's all about you. So I wanted to say that. And then the other thing I wanted to say is about giving and receiving in terms of the listening. And so I would say that when we are listening, it is the ultimate, listening to somebody else, it is the ultimate form of giving. But also, obviously, it is the ultimate form of receiving as well.
You made really good points and a lot of clarity. And I have to say that now that I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about what Mark said, and then Nicole's point is very similar to what Mark was saying, that they're not attached. So that you can actually, like let's say for Mark and Heidi or anybody, you can actually have this thing where you can just totally be receiving and have somebody totally just give you. And then have that be just so totally good and so totally right and be so totally okay with that. And then it's your turn to totally give while somebody else just totally receives. And it's just perfectly okay. And I think for our purposes here, what we're talking about is the only kind, well, what I would like to consider the listening kind of giving and the listening kind of receiving. And what is that? That's what we're talking about. You know what? We spent, I think, talking about giving and receiving in a different realm other than the listening kind is not our purpose. Our purpose is really to explore how fabulous listening to give and listening to receive is. Marguerite, you're smiling.
Yeah, I just have to show you this because this perhaps explains something and then adds something to this. So we had the cup, right? We had the cup here, right? But here I have a different thing. It's like an hourglass. So we're receiving in things here, right? And then if we listen with our heart, guess what happens? Whatever preconceived ideas and negativity that came in that we listened to, then when we share it, it is purified. If we listen with our head, let's say, this stream would be contaminated. But if we listen to our heart, it will be purified. So if this is the true listening, what you're doing here, Marilyn, on this SkyWire, I think you mean listening to the heart and receive that fully, so that then you can share it. And guess what? The heart energy, the pure heart energy, is magnified. And that's the power of true listening. And you see, there is no stuck point here in this, right? It goes in and out, and in and it flows.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Marguerite? That was a beautiful picture. And the only listening that I want to listen to or pay attention to or consider as listening is the listening from the heart. That's the focus here. And the focus of my work is to and I'm so glad you brought that up, is to only focus. There is no other listening. The listening that we are intended to tune into and use as our guide is the one from the heart. There is no other. So that's a beautiful diagram. And the listening, and yeah, that was beautiful. And you know, just explained a lot, because that's the only way to listen. There is no other listening for me. So thank you for that. Jeremy, you're so nice and quiet.
Well, I've been thinking about what everybody's saying here. I wanted to make a point building on what Marguerite just said. I think, and I've fallen out of touch with this sometimes in my life, but I think we all have an inner compassionate voice that tells us to give, and we have to have enough silence in our lives to be able to listen to that and to figure out who can I help and how, you know, whether through something I can do to help someone that needs a helping hand today, or a donation to a charity. But I think, I think I've learned that if we're out of touch with that inner voice that tells us to give, then we're not really being generous. If we're expecting something in return, I don't think we're being generous either. Tax deductibility of charitable contributions aside, I mean, those are valid contributions, but I think we should be giving out of the openness and compassion of our heart, and not because expecting something greater in return.
Yeah, that's great. That's absolutely right. And I think the issue becomes where people give, and the receiving of that is the simple acknowledgement. It's the simple feeling of the joy that you get from giving. I mean, some people won't even take that on, and that's the receiving that is so important to take on. Or acknowledging yourself in your heart. Acknowledging yourself in your heart for giving is a warm, lovely, balanced, beautiful feeling. That's the receiving. It doesn't have to be something monetary, something, some structure, some solid thing. It's only that. And that's the receiving that is so important. I just went blank. Yeah. So who has a question or wants to ask somebody something?
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
We're speaking about giving and receiving, when we talk to somebody and they reply and respond to us, as long as we're there in the moment and we're open, we can receive it, and we're open enough to give back our a true heartfelt responses to people. But I wondered what anybody here thinks about criticism. What about when we receive criticism? I mean, I have a lot of people that come to our events who are blinded and broadsided by criticism that they get, with people telling them they can't do something, they'll never be able to do this, they'll never be able to be, you know, this person that they want to be, you know, they'll never be able to get success, and they ask how to deal with it. I just wondered what everybody here thought about listening and receiving criticism, because what I do is I equate it to a present. If I give you a present and you don't accept it, who owns it? I still own it. And so with criticism or negativity, if somebody is negative to me, if I just refuse to accept it, who owns it? They do. I haven't got it. I haven't received the negativity, and we're in control of doing that. And I'm just wondering whether or not that is a barrier, or whether that is some form of block that we put up so we don't receive the message fully as we would if it was something to be positive, or if it was questioning. But I just wondered what everybody here or everybody in the stream thought of give, or not so much giving, but sometimes you have to give some form of negativity about something. But I wonder what everybody here thought about giving and receiving things like that.
I think that's a great question. That's a great question, and I would just like to add that that's the gift of listening, is when you listen, you can receive you can receive it, or you can make the choice that it's not yours. Mm. That's the trouble. That's why this is so important, what we're talking about, listening in general. So then the negativity, the criticism, even learning. I mean, do you know how many people won't take on learning because it wasn't theirs, that it's somebody else's learning, and if they take it on, it says that I'm not good enough, or why didn't I know that? I'm not going to learn that. I'm not going to pick that up from somebody because it's not mine. That's the gift of listening. Listening just takes care of all that. That's a beautiful question. So who has something good? Yeah, Heidi, go for it.
Yeah, I want to see both parts, because it is not only receiving criticism but also giving criticism. And I'm very famous for buying.
German lady here, a little brusque sometimes. Yes.
So here I have learned a little bit, I have to say, and I think here enters very much the listening component, to listen into the person and see, first of all, if the criticism you have has any sense for them. Yes. It might be that you see it, but okay, when you see that the person is not able to see it themselves, or don't want it, not at all, and you can already preview the reaction of attack or something, I think we better don't do it. And so I sort of choose when I say it now, and often I'm just silent and I observe myself. Is this criticism because I'm angry? Then it has to do with me and not necessarily with the other person. The other person is only pressing my button, So when I feel emotion around that and I need to say something, then normally I wait at least a day, or I write the letter now and then I revise it the next day and see to get it in a different way. And the other thing is receiving criticism, as you said, when I can sense into the person, listen into the person, and can understand that it is their thing, then I can be quiet and say, okay, they can even trash me, but that's not mine, and I don't need to be angry and fight against it. When they come in a certain way and tell me things, then I think, oh. Often I can even say, yeah, you're right, when I see it immediately. If I don't see it immediately, at least I think about it, and I might come back and say, I have thought about it, and I think you are right. I hope so, at least.
She's done that once or twice, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we have a wonderful training camp here together, so.
We do.
Yes, you do, and you have developed some this trust and this acceptance that you have listened your way into.
Yeah,
you listened your way into this, because I can see, like between the two of you, I can see that Mark is, his energy, his place of come from, his main energy would be that of, a being. He's into the heart, into the heart, and that kind of stuff. And Heidi, I can see that you're used to be more direct and that kind of stuff. And I can see between the two of you, Mark feeling freer to be more direct, and you being freer to be more in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I mean, that is a testament to what listening can do, because it's we listen to get ourselves into that balance. And so, and Heidi, I'm not, but excuse me, Gail was telling something earlier to me, but I was associating that with my husband in a similar sense, that we do something similar to that. He's a lot of dreaming, and I'm more in the heart, and so, but together we can get into that pattern, into listening, when I can listen for when he's out there, and he can listen for when I'm in here. And it's a great practice, and it's wonderful to have companions and loved ones and a film strip to do that with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a real great gift of,
yes,
I would say, of the older age, when we have overcome all the other stuff that we did before and learned our lessons out of that.
Yeah. That's great. So getting back to Dave's question about criticism, who else has something, Gail?
Yeah, so getting back to Dave's question, I think that constructive criticism is not negative. Criticism doesn't equal negativity. I think constructive criticism is truly a gift. And, sure, it hurts a little bit. I mean, we're all human, it doesn't feel good to take it or whatever. But, so what? That's just that part of us that, our emotions, our feelings, that gets, threatened, it's so unimportant. But I think that, it's through the listening that we'll know the difference. If that person is coming at us and that criticism, is indeed negative, we'll know. The listening will tell us. But just to make the point that criticism is not negative in and of itself. It's a total gift when it's really given with love.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you listen, there is no, you wouldn't even see the negative, would you?
Unless it's there, sometimes it happens, but if it's not there, we wouldn't. You're right.
But if it is there, and I'm just asking because I'm processing this. So if it is there, and you're truly in this universal message listening, would you hear it as negative?
Well, if there's something there for you to learn, then through the listening, you will receive that. And if there isn't, then it's like what Heidi said before, if a person is just, dumping their crap on you, then you can just know that and just say, hey, that's their thing and that's not mine, and you don't even have to be mad at them. You'll know what to do from the listening.
That goes back to what I was saying about the present. If I give you a present and you don't accept it, who owns it? If you don't accept it because you can tell that it's just negative and it's for no reason other than they can say it, then there's no need to accept it. The thing with the thing with all of that, I think, is that criticism is great. because it's another person's point of view of what you're doing, and you can be caught up in something that you're saying or doing and you think that you're right, but somebody is receiving it in a completely different way. But negative stuff, I think you know that you're going to get something negative, because we always say to people, you look great, with no predicate to that, no precursor to that comment. We say your hair looks wonderful, you know, or you look really healthy, you know, or you really helped me, that was great, I was really interested in that. But if it is something for the sake of it, it's usually got a predicate of something like, I don't want to upset you, but, or I don't want to annoy you, but, and it's usually got somebody's but in front of it, and they know exactly what they're doing. I don't annoy you, but, and then they tell you something that's going to annoy you or upset you. And if you're aware and awake and listening, you can hear this and you can think, right, I'm going to brace myself now, because I'm going to get a load of crap being said to me, because they can. And if we're awake and we're listening and we're open, we can reference it all, and sometimes take out the stuff that we think, I never thought of that, that's useful, and we can break it down ourselves. But the torrent that you sometimes get is, I've done it, you know, it's nothing to do with me, that's you, that's a context you're working out of.
You know, I'm sitting here and believe me, I get stuck on somebody's negativity too. But I'm sitting here and I'm processing, and I'm thinking, I think the better we get at this listening thing, then we'll listen past the negativity and only see the love. I think. I don't know yet, because I don't know everything there is that listening takes you past, or when it takes you past something, what it takes you to. I'm not sure yet. I'm on this journey too, but I have gotten past it, and you don't see that negativity. You don't hear it. You just see, you know, an opinion or nothing that hurts. So it's very interesting to me to really do this listening work, because I get the messages that there is something more, and I'm just like wanting to find it.
What I find in these cases, I see how my emotions are, and then I process my emotions, and then I often come to the point where I have compassion for the person, which I see so stuck into their thing, you know, then it's only, no, it's not only, come on.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, and this is really, I sometimes felt opening the heart for this poor being who doesn't know to get out of this
shell.
yeah, of the shell of emotions.
Right, and you know, visualizing Marguerite's picture earlier, the better our listening is, the quicker we can feel or bring up the compassion. Marguerite, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to talk about a criticism about yourself and not react. You have a very graduated, honed in confirmation that you're actually listening. Because if you can stay present with somebody criticizing you and then hear it, whether it's true or not, if it's true, yeah, it may be feeling painful, but it's really valuable to you. If somebody says something that's really critical that you need to learn, yes, then I need to own it and listen to it. And in the second case, if it doesn't concern me, I'm not reacting to it because it has nothing to do with me, I can still listen. And we can still listen to that person, and maybe by they are listened to, they can solve some of the inner problems that they have.
Yeah, that's it. So that's very interesting. So when you were saying that, I realized if somebody is saying something that's critical, if I'm listening or when I'm listening, if it's something that I agree with somehow somewhere inside of me, and I can hear that, if I'm listening, then I'm in my heart, which is part of the journey. I wouldn't be angry. I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be hurtful. It's only if it's in my ego and it touches my ego that I'm going to have a different reaction. Because if it touches that button and I've heard it and I'm good with the button being touched because I'm in my heart and I'm okay with not being perfect, then it's okay. I have to hear that. I've heard that. So that's really cool. Jeremy.
Well, I think similar to Gail, constructive criticism is beneficial. I think it's difficult to receive, and yes, it is sometimes painful. But I guess what I do, I have kind of a negativity filter. I have a bunch of positive people in my life. I call them my positivity patrol. And if I sense that these people are negative and destructive and pessimistic, I filter out what they're saying as best I can. I do what I can to help them. And if I just determine it's destructive, I just ignore it. You know, everyone needs to vent at certain points. And when we do that, we say things we don't mean or we regret. And so, I guess I try to let things roll right off my back if it's destructive, and if they're too destructive, I just, I move them outside of my circles.
That's your choice, and listening gives you that power, and that's your choice. That's really this has been a great show. I think you've all been doing just terrifically. So we're winding down. So before we go into the next segment of our show, who has another comment to make about? Yeah, Gail, go.
So I was just thinking about what I had shared with you in the green room before the show started, and how it fits so perfectly with what we were just talking about. So I'll just say really briefly. So I was working on this piece for an article. And so 2 nights ago, it just I was up all night. This doesn't happen to me quite all the time, but it was just coming to me, and I was up all night writing this article. I was really, really excited about it. And so my husband comes home from work yesterday, and we sat down. We were having some dinner, and I told him, I said, I started writing this piece, and blah blah blah. What do you think? And right there, he's like, oh, and he told me what he thought it should be, okay? That it was a different angle than what I had originally done. So, right then and there, okay, let me tell you the different things that were happening inside of me at the very same time, okay? So he's telling me this, and one part of me was thinking, oh my God, why didn't I think of that too? Oh my God, 12 hours of work is going to go, all for waste. Oh my God, what I did wasn't good enough. So that, immediately that was all happening. But at the very same time, the listening, the real listening, not only did it tell me that what he said was so completely true, that it was so brilliant what he had said, I also realized at the same time that the universe was speaking to me through him, as it happens all the time, all the time with us, And so it was just so clear, okay, where I needed to go with this. And so I just dropped the other one, and of course I started working on the new one, and I'm totally into this now. And it just was a perfect example of what we're talking about.
Yep, absolutely, and that was a great example. And listening gives you the time out. It gives you it gives you. Time stands still. Time goes faster. Actions stand still. Actions go faster. Feelings stand still. Feelings go faster. Thoughts stand still. Thoughts go faster when you listen. Whatever you need. wherever you are. The better we get at it, the better everything is going to be. I don't think I just that's why this kind of a show is so important. And I want to thank you all for being here at your very, very best, offering your very, very best, sharing your heart, sharing your vulnerabilities, your lives, and all the messages that you get on a daily basis. And I really appreciate your being willing to expose yourself and being open to not knowing. And I thank you very much for that. So I want to thank everybody that's been listening, and I want you to listen now to who these people are that you're listening to and you're giving your time to, because they're special. So don't go anywhere, just listen. Marguerite, what's special about what you're doing now?
Well, it ties in with listening and hearing my clients' problems and situations. And I think that what we've talked about today, if I pay attention to that in the future, I could be a better coach, better mentor to my clients. And if you're interested about what I'm doing, you could go to my website, thecrystallotus.com. I just posted a post there about rainbows. There is some practices that you can download if you like. Anyway, so my passion is to be of service. I really, really want to be of service, and when a person listening and I could hear what actually they need, and then the transformation that happens inside of that person as a result of this healing process, because I work with healing. It's amazing. It gives freedom and it releases that pent-up energy, and it just streams out like this heart energy. And that is what my passion is, to help other people do.
Thank you. Beautiful. Beautimous. Jeremy.
Well, I'm in the process of becoming a fitness, nutrition, and running coach. I've determined that there are enough people that have asked for my advice with running and nutrition, weight loss advice, that I'm trying to help people whatever way I can with that. So you can visit my blog at runninggrooveshark.com if you want to read about what I'm up to, and also writing a book about adoption, about adopting our daughter from China. So that's still being done. That'll take a while, so I'll keep you posted on that, though.
Good. Perfect. That's great. And Gail?
Well, I'll share a little bit about what I'm up to right now. So my co-author, Brandy Raris, and I just signed up with a new publicity firm, and we're getting ready to really rev up our promotion for our new book, Finding Zoe, which is Brandy Raris' memoir, my co-author. She's actually a deaf woman. And so personally, I'm getting ready now to do a radio campaign. So I've been working on my messaging and my Q&A, and I'm very excited about it. So
Good. Good. Perfect. I love hearing what people are doing, and it's very exciting. And Dave? Oh.
There we go. Yeah, I've got the unenviable task at the moment of listening to myself. I'm listening to recordings of seminars that we did last year, and we're breaking them down into podcasts and little videos, and editing 3-day seminars into sort of 10-minute slots, which is interesting to say the least. But anybody who wants to find out exactly what we do with people on the seminars, we're coming to America. Sounds like a title of a good film. We're coming to America in July and August, and we're getting ready for that. And anybody who wants to find out what we do in the transformation arena can put either of those terms into Google, and there'll be a lot of information on the first page that comes up. It's a Google community, a website, a blog, Facebook, Twitter, the lot. So I look forward to seeing people there. And thanks very much for the opportunity to be here today.
It's always nice to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And our lovely couple.
Oh, oh my. Well, I'm going to go right back to the body business here when I say about what I'm up to. Because somewhere along about 7th grade, my body took a terrible beating from junior high school, just in terms of self-image, what I was able to do, what I wasn't able to do, what people said I couldn't do. And so tonight at 7 and an hour and a half, we have tango lessons here. We have a teacher coming in, and we have people coming in as guests to share in the tango lessons. And I don't really look forward to that because this tests my idea of who I am. I feel like I have 2 left feet, so to speak, in many times. But this is my business now. Try not to be a head on sticks anymore, And the head works fine too, by the way. But going in other directions.
That's good. Heidi, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'm mainly doing what Dave does. I'm cutting down, editing our Wisdom Factory Hangout show we did before, and I'm preparing the next one. And a little bit, not enough, what we are doing now is our relationship stuff, Mm-hmm. We want to create together, and we are doing it, but it needs a little bit more listening and a little bit more speed to get it out, because we really want to give this experience which we have together and the result of the work we did separately, both of us, and how then we can create it together. We want to give it out into the world, and we are also preparing this, but it's still a little bit. Who wants to know a little bit more about us? thepowerofrelationship.com. This is our website, and there's a whole lot, also the Wisdom Factory, but also the relationship, and a whole lot. It's not there that we are living in a beautiful country with the flowers here and the swallows in front of the door here by building their nests. This you won't see, but come and visit us. We have also a guest house. And you can dance tango tonight with us.
We'll be there. Thank you. Right. Thank you. And I am in the process of launching a coaching membership that will be a 90-day membership that will include group work in what I call the listening laboratory, and then private coaching as well. And I'm only able to take 5 people. So if anyone has any questions about it, you are more than welcome to email me at marilyn@marilynshannon.com for more information. It'll be a 90-day practice, and then whoever joins will have access to the future practices. And then I am also writing a book which is about conflict, and it's got a great title, and the title really is going to be really cool. So if anyone has any stories, personal stories of conflict in their life, something that's been resolved, maybe not resolved, I'm very interested in having your story. It can be about any relationship at all, or if you have a really great way of expressing conflict and you'd like to write something about it, that would be great too. So these stories can be about husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, mothers and daughters, fathers and sons, any relationship, a work relationship, any relationship where there has been some issues. I'd love to have the story. So again, you can write me at marilynshannon.com. And so I've been thinking about what our next show is going to be about, and I think I have the idea. So you'll all have to tune in next week, or actually just watch the post going here forward and see if that's exactly what. But I got this inkling while we were talking that I think would be a really cool thing to do for the next show. So be on the lookout because you're going to see it. Anybody have a final word before we close and we end the show for the day? Anybody who wants to take it? Jeremy, you go for it.
I would challenge all of us to be selfless and to perform one spontaneous act of kindness today. Just listen to yourself, and your inner voice will tell you what that should be.
And so it is, and so it shall be done. And with that, I want to thank everyone that's been in our stream, listening, watching, commenting, and everybody here from our divine couple, Dave, Gail, Jeremy, Margarita. And thank you all. We'll see you next week. Bye.